Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Sweet or salty?
Yeah, both.
Okay. Beach or mountains?
Beach.
2% or whole milk?
2%.
Okay. This is a true story about what happens when a simple curiosity about heritage turns into a life-altering revelation. I'll walk you through what happened when a past I never knew about suddenly came crashing into my future. I'm Chelsea, and this is The Milkman's Daughter. When I first started digging into my DNA results, I never could have imagined it would lead me to this conversation. Today I'm sitting down with my biological father, the milkman himself. For decades, neither of us knew about each other's existence. But now, here we are, sitting down to talk openly about how all this unfolded, what it's meant for both of us, and where we go from here. Thanks for agreeing to do this. I appreciate it. This will be a fun one.
Yeah, I've waited, 67 years.
67?
Well, when I met you, it's 2 years now. It'll be 2 years. 68. I waited 68 years.
Okay, well, we'll start at the beginning, or at least the beginning for you.
Yeah.
When you first got that phone call, I assume it was a phone call from Kirk.
Yes. Yes.
What was that like, and what was going through your head?
We're identical twins, so
Yes.
we've messed with each other, our whole life.
Uh-huh.
He calls me up. I'm driving down the road, and he's just laughing. He said, "You're not going to believe the call I got. There's just some girl that thought I was her dad." And I said, "What?" And he just, and he said, I talked to her and asked her about when, the time frame, because you'd done this, spit in a tube and sent it off, and it come back, and because my brother's deceased son had also evidently done spit in a tube and sent it off, you two matched up, and you didn't know that I was an identical twin. And you look at the time, in Hobart at that time, well, he was married and lived in Edmond, and I was single living in Hobart in that time frame. So it was pretty obvious. And I thought I just thought it was a scam.
See, that's what I was going to ask you. First off, did you think he was punking you? And then
No.
At what point did you realize, oh, he's being serious?
I can kind of, we've kind of can read each other. And I knew he was serious about getting a call. What I didn't know, I just thought it was a scam, and about that time, I don't know if I was still talking to him, but I get a text from my wife, and it's a screenshot of your text
Of the message. Okay.
that you sent to
I was
her.
curious the timeline of that, like how that played out, because I couldn't remember when I had sent that to her versus when I had actually talked to Kurt.
Yeah, it was very close. And so I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
The text, says, hey, there's this girl that says she's done some DNA testing, and in your way of asking, would you help me fill in my family tree?
Yeah.
Which can imply a lot of things. And I think he said that you said to him, you might be my dad.
I don't even remember.
I think it's, if I recall, that he said that, and that you had called and talked to, I don't know if you knew the one son that you connected with was deceased.
I did.
You
I
did?
didn't. I mentioned that I had connected with Landon.
Yeah.
And I think that probably gave him some pause when I mentioned something, because I was trying to establish that I wasn't just calling randomly. I know this person that I know is connected to you, and, to give myself some
Credibility.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And because I can't imagine what's going through your mind trying to, making these calls, because here you're calling.
I was a little out of my mind.
Yeah. And I was just like, what is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
I had zero idea. And I do have some experience in DNA with my wife, and we can talk about that part
We'll
later.
get to that, yeah.
Yeah. So we called a person that she knew that did this, and we got myself, you, and my wife, and this other person. We're all on a conference.
So then,
call.
yes, we get on what I believed was a three-way call.
Right.
But you were listening in on it.
I was,
yeah.
I'm just sitting there on the couch, and my wife's Rob's over here talking on the phone, and I'm listening. I'm like,
so what was that like, being on the other end of that call?
that was pretty wild, because here's my wife, here's some girl on the end of the line, and here's this lady that understands this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She's asking you questions that you're able to answer, and I call it millibars. I don't know what it's called, but she
Centimorgans.
Centimorgans. Yeah. All right. And she'd ask you how many of these, and you had a response, and if it was if you're supposed to have 4, you answer. I mean, you filled in all all her questions. You knew what they meant. I'm sitting there. I didn't have any idea what that all meant, and we talked for a pretty good while, and then we hung up, and immediately our friend calls back and says, I'm 100% convinced it's your husband is the father of this lady. Mm-hmm. So I was sitting there, I was kind of like, oh, okay. What? It was just kind of I don't want to say a shock.
I think shock's appropriate.
Yeah, okay. It's a shock, because, here somebody's telling me I have a daughter. And I don't know. This is just a voice on the other end of the line.
Right.
And it's still, a little bit of it is like, is this real, or is this, is this person, because there's so much scam going on anymore. So we get off, and Rob and I kind of look at each other, and I'm like, I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. What do you think? We didn't know what to think. Mm-hmm. And about that time, I texted you. Pretty soon after that, I said, basically, hey, would you like to talk?
But not before doing some Facebook creeping, right?
I probably, yeah.
Because at that point, right, you were still.
I don't even know because I didn't know your name. I couldn't really Facebook creep you because I didn't know your name.
You did know my name, because Robin had my name, because I messaged her through Facebook.
Okay, maybe it might have done some creep. I don't know, that it all kind of rolls together.
Yeah, it rolls together. But if I remember, what you told me was that because you were trying to remember my mom.
Yeah.
And so you found her through Facebook, right? And started creeping.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't recognize her, because there was not it's been, 50 years, 50.
I'm not 50, so no, it hasn't been 50 years.
It's been 30.
At that point, it had been 38 years.
30, well, so I texted you at some point, said, hey, would you like to talk? And you didn't immediately respond. Then I texted, I said, I would really like to talk to you. Mm-hmm. And you responded back, I would like that too. And I called you up, and we talked for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I guess I'm talking to my daughter here,
Yeah.
And because I grew up with 4 brothers, I had 3 boys, had a grandson first. So, it's nothing but boys. Mm-hmm. And then we got 7 granddaughters. And I've never had a daughter. Tiffany, my twin brother's daughter, is always just like my daughter. She was my daughter. I never had. So I'm going through in my head, oh my gosh, do I have I guess I have a daughter. And I did a lot of Facebook stalking, and, looked you up, just as I'm sure obviously what you guys did.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
a lot of that.
Yeah, you probably knew more about me than I knew about myself.
I found out a lot. There's a lot you can find out through the internet.
There is a
Yep.
lot that you can find out.
It all happened so fast from the point of finding out to actually finding you and finding everyone. It really was relatively quick.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a matter of weeks.
But you at least had that.
I had a little bit more than you did.
You had,
Yeah.
Mine was just bam, right there. Here it is.
Yes.
Phone call and guess what I've been checking into the last several weeks. And
Here, I'll just drop a bomb in your lap. Here you go.
I mean, it's one of those you don't ever expect a call. Who expects a call like that at this point in your life? I mean, you were 38 years old. I was 69 at the time. Was I 68? I guess
Something like that.
Yeah, I was 68, 69. I mean, I'm on down the road. I'm and to think that I have a daughter that's 38 years old. And a lot of my thinking was, my gosh, look what we missed. And I know that's not there's nothing that can be done about that. And we've kind of talked about that piece too of, you don't like to look back, or, you don't like to focus on what I missed. I didn't get to walk you down the aisle. I didn't get to swing you on a swing. Just silly stuff like that. Not silly. It's not silly. But it's been a complete different mindset. And I've told this story so many times. And I have a little business where I help clients, and I've used this story, I can't tell you how many times.
And I keep waiting on my commission check.
I know it, and the check's in the mail.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, one of the big deals that I was doing, I was telling our story. You happened to call, and while I'm sitting here in his
solidified
office,
the deal.
Yes. I told him, I said, she's calling right now. So it's. I love telling the story. It's a great story, and there's just so many different parts to it that we've experienced going through this. And some are funny, some are like, oh gosh,
Well, okay. So did you ever think that the term "the milkman's daughter" would apply into your life?
That's great. That's a great one. So
Here it is, the punchline.
Yeah, we're trying to fill in a little bit of our past. Where'd we come from? What all that kind of stuff. And we were talking about where I met your mom, and you were trying to say, well, she worked at a convenience store in Rocky. I'm like, that's where it is. I was the milkman that brought milk to that little convenience store. And so
out of all the things that we talked about in that conversation, that is not one of the things I expected you to say.
You started laughing. You were, and I was like, well, what's so darn funny about me being the milkman?
What do you mean? What's so funny about that? Gosh.
You've always heard the milkman jokes. And I'm like, well, maybe there's I guess there's truth to that. But, you've gotten me a coffee mug, that says the milkman. Tiffany, was it whose birthday she made?
She made the cake with the
milkman,
with the milkman
and
on
with
it.
my face superimposed on the.
We've had a lot of fun with that joke.
Yeah, we've really had a good time with that, trying to weave that into our conversations and the different things. So
yeah. Okay, so we'll go back to Robin and her story. So how would you say Robin's journey shaped the way you approached our situation?
Oh, it if it wasn't for that, this would have been much, much more difficult for me to accept the person the fourth person on the line whenever you made the call was her search angel. And going through that, because Robin was adopted and she knew she was adopted her most of her life from a very young age. And the search angel helped navigate that to where I don't know if we could have, and she helped us. She did all the digging.
Yeah.
We just kind of, but we utilized the search angel to help see if you're telling the. No, I don't want to say telling the truth, but if you had navigated,
just a nice middleman that knows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if it was just you and her and me, I would have.
It would have been harder too.
It would have been much harder.
Yeah.
But since I had gone through this with Robin, I was like, okay.
Yeah. I think helped make it more believable. More,
yeah. Well, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think that's because it's hard to believe.
Yes, it is.
I mean, for both of us, you're.
If I didn't believe in the DNA, I wouldn't have believed it myself.
No, that and myself. I mean, I would have been just like, what's all right. So, what are you looking for?
Right? Yeah.
What's your
angle? Why are you? Yeah.
And while we're on that phone call, what really got me was the search angel asked you, what are you trying to get out of this?
Right.
She asked it, and kind of like that is my memory. What are you getting out of this, or looking for out of this? And your response is what got me. It was like, I just want to see where I came from. I'm trying to remember the exact words. Do you remember the exact? It was something.
No, exact words is not my specialty.
Yeah, me too. But it was like that, and that really, I mean, that touched my heart. It really did. I'm sitting there. I'm like, this person is, this a genuine person, and she's not just. I need a kidney, and
Oh man! If only I would have led with that.
If
What's your blood type?
I've been like, and maybe you need to talk to my twin brother. I think he's probably the one you need to talk to if you need a kidney. But you weren't looking for anything tangible. You were just looking for a connection. I think it is.
I needed a I don't know, like an end to it where I had all this, everything was kind of open and questioning. Because once I realized that it was you, after I talked to Kirk, I was like, okay, I know who it is now. So I felt pretty good about my knowledge, and I felt good knowing that the ball was in your court. Like, if he wants to reach out, that's up to him. But I wanted you to know because I knew that you didn't know. So I felt like that was the right thing to do as far as, would you want to know if you had a kid floating around out there? And then what you wanted to do with that, I wanted that to be your choice. And so that could be just, here's the information. Because when I gave it to you, it felt like I was releasing some of the responsibility of having it just on my own shoulders. Yeah. So I needed the truth. I got that from that phone call. I felt pretty good after I got off the phone call, although it was super awkward. I felt pretty good getting off the phone, knowing that you now had that information, and I no longer had to be the keeper of it. It was out there, and I was like, oh, I can breathe a little bit.
What did you think when I texted you?
Well, I was a little surprised just because emotionally I was I think that was all in. I don't remember when I had the phone call with Kirk and then had the phone call with the search angel. It all felt like it was just bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
And I was just drained. And I honestly thought, I'm not going to hear from these people again. So I was trying to decompress And so when you reached out, I was like, okay, like let's just keep going. But I was fried. My brain was.
Yeah, yeah. Because honestly, you didn't know what you were going to find.
Well, yeah. Well, it was
You didn't know if I was alive, dead, if I was in prison, if I didn't want to have any contact with you. I mean, you hear that all the time where, children people didn't know they had reach out and they're like,
they don't want anything to do with them. So I think that was more of what I was prepared for, just because I kind of had this, I'm kind of a realist, and I was more prepared for the rejection than I was to be embraced. That was more what I was prepared for.
And I think, I know I've said this to you before, but I just say it now. As a father, I love all my boys. I didn't know about you, but when I found out about you, it was just as if you were just born. I know it's tough for you to hear, but my love for you was already there. I mean, I had you in my heart. It was just like I had you since you were born, and it's hard to explain that, but it's it wasn't where it's going to take a long time for this to grow, for you to grow on me. For I had an immediate, and I know we've had to navigate through that.
You and that mic.
Well, that mic, it just keeps getting in my way.
You just hand talking over there, all over the place.
But it's hard. It's not hard to explain, but people that don't have kids probably couldn't understand it. And in my mind, it's like, this is my daughter. While I didn't have her from here to here, I've got her now. It's just in my heart, it's just as if I've had you my whole life. I don't see you any different. Like, oh, well, you're kind of new to the game. Mm-hmm. We live a couple hours apart, which is, not, at least it's not more than that. Mm-hmm. If we lived, you're probably glad that I didn't live here. You're like, oh, gee, Christmas. He's going to be over every dead burn day.
A little bit of distance is okay.
It's not. It's been fun. The newness at first was we texted morning, noon, and night. And it kind of was getting almost too much.
Overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we've settled into I don't know, a
bit of a rhythm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We're at where we're at.
We're still figuring it out.
We're still figuring it out. There's just you can't go to a book and it says, okay.
There's no guidebook for this.
Just as there is, whenever you first became a parent, there's no guidebook.
There's lots of guidebooks actually on how to parent.
Oh, is there? Well, there's not very many on how to be a father to a young woman that's, married, got a kid, 38 years old.
Yeah. So should maybe write this book. I feel like more and more of this is happening. People need a guidebook. What would you want other people going through their own DNA journey to know, or any advice that you...
Oh, wow. Be open to it, first off, because there's two parts to this. There's your part and my part. Mm-hmm. You were concerned of whether I was going to be accepting of you. I was concerned of, after we found each other, as well, what is she going to be accepting of me? I guess advice is to and every situation is different, but they've got to have an open heart to accept another member of the family in. Because I've always done it like this, right. This person is not on the outside. Mm-hmm. This person is absolutely, like that movie, you're in the circle. I forget what that movie was, but you're immediately in the circle, and you've got to make sure, and I always, and I hope that I've done a good job of this, is making sure that you were included, making sure that you knew that you were welcome into whatever situation might be. I just say, have an open mind, open heart, and be patient. 20 years ago, I think back to my wife, the process of trying to find a parent, a brother, a sister, a child, whatever, was not easy to do.
Right.
But now, you hear these cold cases where somebody was killed 40 years ago and they left a hair, over there, and they're able to now and find people that did things. And that's the same way with this now. You're right. There's going to be possibility of, because there wasn't that possibility before. You never knew that, you didn't know I was your dad. You didn't know that I was your biological
I didn't
dad.
know that my story was any different than what I'd always thought it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And if it wasn't for the DNA testing, we'd both gone to our grave not knowing. And that has happened many, many times.
Yes.
That you never knew.
Yeah.
I think grew up, you've read these stories where my brother and I were separated at birth, and we've lived a block and a half from each other our whole life,
Yep.
Never knew it.
Yep.
So I'm glad that there's DNA testing, because I'm glad that I've got a daughter.
Well, there you have it. That was the milkman, my dad. Even saying those words still feels so surreal. We're about 2 years into this journey and still working on how to navigate this new relationship. Wish I could say that this whole process has been smooth thus far, but the truth is a little more complicated than that. Some things like the ever-present teasing and joking that has been a part of our relationship from the very beginning has felt as natural as anything. But my context for what a father is was basically non-existent. So that's made things a little more challenging on my end. Everyone has a story and a past that shapes so much of who we are today, but we don't have to allow ourselves to be stuck in that past. We can choose to move forward, and we can choose to heal. God has a plan for our lives. Even when we don't have the full picture, we know that He is good. So while I can't say exactly what our future looks like, I am filled with hope. We're still writing our story, and we're just in the first chapter. And I am grateful that we both chose to step into it together. Join us again next time as we sit down to talk about what it was like to meet for that very first time. Thanks so much for listening to The Milkman's Daughter and being part of this journey with me. If you've got a story of your own you'd like to share, you can email me at milkmansdaughterpod@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. And I'd like to give a big thank you to Michael Stelzer for the beautiful original music you've been hearing throughout the show. It really gives the story its heartbeat.